Hello there. Yeah. So no. So now that your report's been out there, I've seen communications in the papers and whatnot, and people are starting to voice opinions. So
Yep.
I don't know if anybody here is taking a look and wants to make any comments. How have you received it?
So far, so good. There's, we're a large town. People are going to have opinions on everything.
Right.
I think if they understand the context of where we're coming from as a committee, how we got organized, 5 years ago we produced this that looked at the coming of Groton Hill Music and what it might mean for the town, what are the challenges and opportunities, which led to this committee appointing us 4 years ago to look at marketing the town for its assets and building some economic growth around that. And we began 3 years ago, I think it was 23 and 24, we produced a survey that went out, had over 400 respondents to that survey. 2 years into that, we won an award from the state for traffic mobility study and planning for town center. And each year in our annual report to the committee, we keep you up to date on where we are in that process. We started what we labeled a vision process. And that's a concept that requires a little attention. But in our letter to you, we say our goal was to create a visioning process where through research and analysis we would study current conditions, explore market potential, and examine transportation mitigation strategies. We believe strongly that community engagement to gather input from residents, business owners, town officials, and visitors through surveys, forums, and interviews would help us all translate feedback into concepts for how the town could evolve over the next 10 years. So the process is just beginning with this, because it's a document that projects what our challenges are. It doesn't come up with a solid blueprint, we must do this. It reflects our professional input from the consultants we hired about the options. And if the issue is traffic safety, public safety, and traffic mitigation strategies, we have a dozen to look at. If we're looking at ways to increase revenue stream to the town under the meals tax, rooms tax, ticket tax, we think we can do that because we are becoming a cultural destination. We've always had a strong arts and culture reputation, but now people are discovering and coming. Along with our trail network, since the pandemic, the trail network has really been discovered by people coming and visiting. And of course, Groton Hill Music is a premier performance center. Its reputation is now growing tremendously. So this was looking at, we all live in the town. We all know what it's like to drive around 2 times during the day. It's like a parking lot out there. We identify of the 20,000 vehicles going by, 60% are from out of town. We can't do anything about that. It's a state road. You, as the policymakers in the town, can hopefully leverage a relationship with the state officials to think through some of these mitigating strategies. And they're all just out there for us to discuss and to keep going on thinking through what might be possible there, what it might cost, what are the funding sources, and the element of time. That's why we said a 10-year vision. It might take 6 years to get something done, or 3 years, or more. So the visioning process was to start a conversation, and it's been a great conversation. We've had over a dozen public forums, meetings, conferences. The conversation has been opinions. Everyone has an opinion, and it's important to recognize that and to represent even opinions that disagree with doing anything. But we all live in a town where we are seeing increasing public safety concerns about our traffic conditions. I don't know, I gave you all hard copies as members of the board. Were you able to go online?
Yeah.
Good, because I could take the time now, but I won't. If you click on the traffic crash in front of Joni's house at Route 40, there are two videos of that. She lives on the corner, and the first video shows a Jeep just missing her house and hitting a tree. At the corner of her house is her gas line exposed. It's like, listening to the fire chief tonight. There's some things you can solve, some things you hope to. You need a strategy. Hope's not a strategy. What we need is a strategy that collectively, together, a shared vision. We're not trying to tell you or the town residents what to do, what to agree to.
And that's
It's a
an important
conversation.
message to make clear, because some people are just very afraid of change, and they're thinking this is getting rammed down the throat. I mean, you need to reinforce that this is, like you said, it's options.
It is. And for instance, the letter in this week's Groton Herald, they reference that we're thinking of using eminent domain
Right.
to take property. That word is not.
It's never been mentioned, never been mentioned.
And-
So that's what I mean. People, like you said, will form their own, they have their own ideas and fears, if you will. But
And
they just have to understand, these are options.
They are.
We've been trying to say this all along, that
Right.
this is what the information that we've been receiving from the townspeople, from the experts, and we're just putting it together and giving it back as ideas,
Yeah.
but never, ever with the intention of pushing anything.
Right.
It's just what we're hearing and what we're trying to reflect back with just different possibilities of being proactive on some things.
We took great pains
Very
to make
much
sure
so.
that language was mitigated,
Yeah.
like
All
in
the
ways
time.
that in my private sector job, I would never be as concerned about. So
Right.
it's just-
Yeah.
So I don't know if you are aware that also in the same time frame, there have been some meetings about the historic districts and about the potential of expanding the historic districts.
yes,
And that also was met with a lot of unhappiness at the way that it was, and there was some reasons for that. And I don't know if the rest of you know, because some of you saw the initial mailing. It turned out that there was supposed to have been a cover letter with that mailing. But the mailing was a little bit abrupt, informing people of a meeting to discuss the potential or the possibility of expanding the historic districts. I attended the meeting, and there were a lot of people who were quite upset. And the Historic Districts Commission did a good job, I thought, of it saying, we are just trying to get a sense, we're just trying to, talking ideas. Some people have come to us and said, why does it stop here? Why doesn't it go here? Looking at a map, some people think it makes more sense to, go here. We're just trying to get a sense from that. And then at some point, they learned that when that mailing that went out didn't include the cover letter that they had written that was supposed to go with it, that would have explained some of that. And that was obviously a snafu that
Like a
happened.
USPS mailing?
Yes. And then and then some neighbors organized themselves. And then there was another meeting held downstairs and the room was packed. And I think, again, it was probably reassuring I didn't attend that meeting, I heard about it from people who did. I think that maybe the level of upsetness went down a little bit with some of the explanation. But some people what I've heard is wow, the historic district, they're looking at expanding, and the Destination-Groton people are looking at changing the center of town, and it feels like, oh my gosh, all these things that are happening that I might not want to have happen.
Yeah.
You know, that,
Or they'd like an opportunity to weigh in.
pardon me?
Or they may want the opportunity to express themselves.
Or mostly they just are a little perturbed or thrown off by the idea that things might be happening that they don't really understand or know about.
Well, I appreciate that, but we've been at this research process for the past 3 years. We don't think this, what we've presented to you, because you've appointed us, is a vision. And now we're trying to get it out to the public.
Right.
So getting your feedback we thought was important, and whatever time it takes to come to the next phase in this visioning process.
So you know that we have hired a traffic consulting
Yes,
firm. I think it's safe to say that everyone in town wants the traffic problem
yes,
to be improved,
Yeah.
including all of us.
yes,
And that,
indeed.
you know, we've had some good studies, and I think there's some good ideas out there, and at some point, we're going to hopefully be able to proceed
Yeah, I
with
think it's
some
time
of
to
them.
move on that. I mean, that was the one takeaway, and like Becky says, I think everybody, I mean, they may have different visions for how you solve it. Maybe you don't do the little mini rotaries or something, maybe there's some other way to do it, but something needs to get done.
Yes.
Because we are sort of captive to all the commuter traffic going through town, and it needs to be more, you know, user-friendly, or pedestrian-friendly for sure.
And what we're
We gotta
saying
move, we
is,
gotta move in that, and I don't think there'd be a whole lot of pushback
And
in
then
that.
the other piece that I think everybody would agree to is it would be great to have more restaurants in town, both for the opportunity to eat out in different places, but also that is a kind of commercial development that actually does bring money into the town coffers, as opposed to retail stores, which, you know, their permitting brings some money in, but then that's it.
yes,
That was the whole leakage thing you're talking about. I mean, there are opportunities, I think, for restaurants.
there is.
We have a couple of high-end restaurants, something a little bit more
Yeah. And
family
in
friendly.
the report,
would
we,
work good, I think.
we list some ideas that we've heard from people, like an ice cream shop. Well, guess what? One is opening
Yeah.
up the
Yeah,
street.
yeah.
More restaurants. The restaurant next door, let's hope if something happens there. And once it does, it'll open up more traffic
Right.
and people. So we listed things like a bookstore or a bicycle repair shop. That's feedback from people on the surveys and coming to these meetings. So we're not saying we have the answer. We're saying, what are your ideas?
Right.
We collect them and then say, we have a problem with public safety and traffic mitigation and mobility. You know, bikes on the street and brighter lines to the driver's going to slow down because there are lines for parking, and it narrows it to a 10 lane instead of a 20-foot lane wide, highway. We think these ideas are worth pursuing as a town. So it's a shared vision. It's not Destination-Groton saying we want this. That's not the process here. The visioning process is to do the research, hire the professionals to give us a series of options, present them, get feedback, and continue. We have a recommendation here that I can speak to that I went to the town manager and said to Mark, one of our asks is to consider forming a new committee of representation from various committees that would bring their strength and their expertise to the table to deal with traffic mitigation and economic growth. We all know what's happening with our budget this year and the school system in the last 3 years and so forth. We're not promising at all to say we're going to solve that problem. We could see under the right circumstances, widening the revenue stream from those three that I mentioned. It's not going to solve the millions of dollars of challenge, but it could create several $100,000, and that's something.
Yeah.
But what we'd like to do is engage the town in a conversation so that
Can
it doesn't.
I give you a little bit more feedback?
Yeah,
I've lived near the center of town for more than 50 years, and I've lived through a number of consultants coming out here and saying, there's all this undeveloped land in the center of town. What an opportunity. And frankly, I don't like any of those ideas. I think that having the open land in the center of town is part of what makes our town unique.
absolutely.
And so when I see even the sort of, gradual infill in the center of town, I think, well, that's a little bit of code for filling in more of that open space in the center of town. I personally am not particularly excited with that idea.
No, I appreciate that.
And that's the other side of this, always for us, has been to protect the beauty.
Right.
You know, it's the economic development and the safety and all of that, absolutely, but it's always been with equal importance to protect exactly that, Becky. I'm completely in agreement with you. Anything that we've been talking about is just to enhance what is already existing, maybe with existing buildings that could be repurposed eventually, if that were to happen. It's never been about taking land and putting something up that would block views or change that very pastoral, and that's part of the charm.
Right.
That's the gem that we have,
And
that
we
we want
have-
to protect. We do not want to change that.
We have made a change in our zoning, which may lead to some of that.
Yep.
With the allowance for,
The overlay
Overlay.
district.
no, that's not what I mean. The ADUs.
Oh, yeah.
Accessory development units that don't have to be
Oh, right,
attached even. You can build
That's
a
right.
detached one on your lot if you meet certain requirements. So individual property owners may end up doing that, and I supported that as a zoning change. I don't see it happening wholesale anyplace in town.
Yeah, we don't prescribe a solution. We are forwarding a vision and a conversation.
Right.
So your opinion is valid, it's your opinion, you don't want to see this, that's great. Someone else might say, well, what if we connected the rail trail access of people coming to town, 3,995
3 to 4,000 a weekend.
in a weekend in Memorial Day 5-6 years ago. So 3,000, 4,000 on a weekend coming on the rail trail, stopping for an ice cream, or stopping at a coffee shop,
Right.
and getting their bike repaired or something. But creating a viable, walkable town center experience where you see your neighbor, and maybe, I'm guessing here, a cultural exhibit of a performance center, you know, maybe a comedian or some other jazz musician or something happens, but it just brings the street alive. How do you do that in a way that's acceptable to people who have qualms about overdevelopment? We don't want that either. But my earlier point is, we went to Mark and said, one of the asks that the committee is looking for, having done this work for the past 3 to 4 years, is to tap into the expertise of other, I'll use a terminology, siloed committees and commissions. There are a half dozen I can name right now that if we formed a committee, and it's not Destination-Groton's committee, it's a Vision Implementation Commission, and you had Planning Board, Complete Streets, Sustainability, Historical Commission, Destination-Groton, we're marketers. And we want to utilize that strength, but others come to the table and literally, instead of having a 10-year master plan, this is a 10-year vision. We worked very closely with the planning board, attended each and every one of their 5 public sessions to learn and talk about this concept a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago. They bring a lot of expertise to the table.
So I'm not understanding what that committee would be charged with.
It would be trying to take the vision and turn it into an action plan.
somewhat makes sense. You know, again, this is a conversation with ideas. What could we do? I mean, I haven't been here as long as you have, Becky, but I've been here for 30-something years, and I remember the Conway School back 30-plus years ago, same exact suggestions about Main Street with the safety and the traffic and all of that from 30 years ago. And the same things that we got from the engineers and the designers, they were talking about the exact same things of how can we make it safer? Can we make it easier? Can we make it more walkable? Thinking of all the schools that are on this Main Street, crossing things. I mean, I watch it every day, the near misses, all the time. And just worried, like the chief was talking about with the fire, that it's only a matter of time before there's going to be another death. There already has been one. There's already been an accident. You know, these things it's just these close calls just for the safety factor alone. Even if we don't do anything else, maybe there could be some ideas that could be implemented by this group that could look
I
at.
think inaction isn't a solution. We can all agree or disagree on what the density of downtown should be, but I know plenty of people that are very unhappy that Donlan's turned into a doctor's office, that the Bank of America is still sitting vacant, that the 21 years I've lived in town, Shaw's Plaza is still mostly a ghost town. Why? Like, so people don't understand why those things are the way they are, and I think they view inaction as the reason that they're the way they are. So this is a vision plan. This committee could be a way to put a voice to that vision in a way that everybody could agree is acceptable and is merely a path, not a mandate.
Yeah, that's important to keep in context, that this new commission, for discussion purposes, would attempt to look at this incrementally over a 10-year or more and try and resolve some of the issues and challenges that face the town. And so it's something that, you're the policymakers. The challenge is, where would you like to see the town in 10 years? What can we do? That you would charge, as you did give us a written charge, you would charge this commission on how to keep in mind the scale and the beauty of the town and the scale of the buildings that might be occupied, but the traffic conditions as a thoroughfare into a main street.
So I guess for me, I'm kind of struggling a little bit. I think the first thing I want to point out is that I know there have been whenever something new comes forward, there are always people who feel like, no one told me. So this is kind of ongoing, the opportunity for everyone in the public to recognize that this has been going on for quite some time. And we're soon going to hear like, oh, they only had 5 public hearings, or there were only 250 people involved. And I want to be really clear that all of us have had the same opportunity to weigh in on all of these ideas.
We had over a dozen and 1,000 people.
Understood. I think ultimately, for me, kind of the next phase is the most difficult one, where we start to take things like, safety concerns without impacting the character of our downtown, which just asking the 5 of us could mean 15 different things. So I think that to me is really difficult. I think it's important that everyone recognize that there will be changes, there will be trade-offs. There's no perfect solution that eliminates trucks and buses, makes it slower for people to pass through but quick for visitors, and we can be accessible. These are all, we can't have it all. I think too that it's important to recognize that these things can go forward and lo and behold, if they don't work or if there is a detriment, there's ability to kind of pause, undo, redo, rethink. These are not, but some things have to change. And ultimately, for me, the biggest concern is sort of around funding and those trade-offs. That if we're going to make things safer and bring out curb bump outs as one kind of idea that's in there, that's going to make plowing more difficult. That may change our staffing. We're not going to need to double our DPW staff, but we need to recognize there are impacts. And I just think I always find it incredibly frustrating. I have no solution, but I find it incredibly frustrating when we get to this point in the process and there's people who pop out of the woodwork who haven't known about this for whatever reason, who just want to kind of create reasons that nothing can change or nothing can work. And something has to give and change.
Yeah.
No,
I
Allison,
think,
bring
I'd
up-
like to add on a little bit. I think there's some low-hanging fruit here, I think,
Yeah.
that we can look at that we would not get a whole lot of pushback on, and that's the calming, that's the traffic calming I think,
Yeah.
in the center of town. There are different ways to do that. Maybe we'll get some insights in the study that we're currently doing.
Painting lines,
That's-
Yeah, but the other thing too is the whole off-street, the planning board's identified this for years, off-street parking. Because that helps ease some of the issue with if you have bump outs or things like that, and cars are displaced, where are they going? So we need some sort of off-street parking solution. There've been ideas about how to make that happen with connectivity down to Station Ave.
Yep.
Those are things I think that they can get addressed and brought forward before the public without a whole lot of pushback.
Yeah,
This is
people-
exactly part of
It's
what-
been talked about, and it's been identified in previous studies.
This is
I
what
would-
Greg is talking about in terms of a commission that would bring up, Allison, you bring up a very good point. You might do one thing that really is great, but then it has all these unintentional consequences on the side. If we have a commission that has representatives from each of these groups that would have professional impact or input on ideas.
I'm going to push back against that idea.
Okay?
We set you guys up as a committee, and I remember saying, we cannot afford an economic development
Right.
department. It's you.
Right.
Yes.
And you've already identified what we need. I give you total permission to go out and find people to fill the empty places down at the Four Corners, with restaurants
Yes,
ideally.
and
Yeah.
we're looking into
Please
that.
do,
Yeah.
please
Yeah.
do. We don't need
Yeah.
a commission to decide that that's a good idea. That is, do it.
Oh, absolutely, and that's what we want to get to. We're talking about the traffic calming and these other ideas that, as you mentioned, Allison, would affect this or that. It will help in safety, but it might impact other things. That was the intention of
So
this
we gotta
other-
wait for this current traffic study results to come in. And then at that point, I don't think any one of us is gonna wanna say, oh, let's set up another committee to decide.
Well,
Okay,
Because we already had your traffic study, and now we're gonna have our traffic
it
study
was-
for some
it
reason.
was embraced.
Yeah, MRPCs don't want to, yeah.
Right, I mean,
Lots of them.
I think too, that to an extent, and this is not a substitute for public input,
Yeah.
but some of this is where and why we have staff.
right,
That, once we get these study results, staff is kind of, the opportunity for this to go to the planning board, to go, to get input to some extent. I'm not saying it should only be these boards, but,
Right.
For me, it's not a hard no to create another committee, but it's hard to envision kind of picking one voice from the planning board or what, like it.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
let me not counter, but broaden the conversation around why we might like to versus why it doesn't make sense. We just went through the process in the last 2 years of securing the state funding under the Rural Development Fund and the Mass Downtown Initiative. One was for traffic and the other was planning. And in the process, prior to getting the award, we did a regional tourism conference the year before, and we had as our guest speaker Ann Goby. Those of you who don't know Ann, she's a former state senator from the Worcester area. Governor Healy wanted to create something within the Economic Development Department that focused on rural development. How you define that is, up to the interpretation. But it was to work with communities around these very issues. If there's a vision to want to improve traffic or improve economic growth within reason, there's now a department, and there's a head of this department who's from the region, who came and spoke. She was our keynote speaker. And she loved the idea of what we were attempting to do here. She loved the town. We took her to the Prescott Building and showed her what's happening there as a community center. We took her to other places around town, of course, the music center. We've developed a relationship with a decision maker, and we got the grant to do the study, and we're looking at the Complete Streets Committee now through the DPW, attempting to get another $100,000 grant to leverage what we've already done, and we got praise from the Complete Streets Committee on the findings and recommendations within the analysis from Stantec. They want to build on that. We want to build on it with them as partners. That would enhance our ability to sit down with an Ann Goby or whomever and say, we're working together across town fiefdoms and expertise. We're pulling together and strengthening our ability to express what we're desiring and how you can invest in us. And we think that relationship is going forward. The state has a program that's called the One-Stop Shop for Economic Growth. And they use the words, like I like to use the word, this is all a conversation. They like to use the word, this is a continuum. So we got the first grant. There'll be others. We want to work with Complete Streets and figure out what should we put our resources together to go after. So the economic continuum under One Stop, we're on their radar. And so we think we can leverage that relationship and it would benefit the town.
But I think there's some difficulty, and it may be one of kind of terminology and vernacular. I think there are a lot of folks in town who are not supportive of economic development.
Yeah.
They might be okay with another restaurant or two, or, you know,
Yes.
So we just need to be really cognizant of the concerns and kind of
I liked your,
somehow how to do this.
I like what you just
There are
said.
lots of folks that are, though, so how do we balance that out?
I don't know,
But-
I had
and
dinner with
that's,
friends last week and they said they didn't know really what I was doing. They didn't know much about Destination-Groton. And when the husband learned that we are doing things that can drive economic development in town, he was like all over it. So I know people that do want that.
absolutely,
but it's
and that's,
not-
I don't know how we kind of.
I don't know, I just feel like we always kowtow to the people that are.
It's a vocal
negative.
minority.
Well,
But unfortunately, I mean, the part of the problem is the folks who are in support, and then the folks who oppose it for this reason, that reason, and that reason.
But we did a
Those
survey,
three get
83% were
together.
in favor of economic development. So how do we like balance that?
but I think it's
That was
also
almost
what
600 total people.
But I think if you read at least what the phrases say in there, that it's like in support of economic development that doesn't change the rural character, and we have a parking problem, and we have a walking, you know, like it
But back to your point, whether it's, if you're against something because you don't want to see too much development, you also said, but maybe there's a restaurant or two or this or that might work. That's part of a
Exactly.
process to implement through a series of, staging these options and investments in a way that the town will benefit. It won't go over a line of too much development. It won't create something that's ugly and can you imagine, I don't know.
I think there's a nexus between, your point, Allison,
Yes.
and the whole, what it talked about in the report, the retail leakage of people
Yes.
going out. So rather than go to Nashua to go to the bike shop to get something, if somebody's got a little bike shop down here, maybe the old Give and Take shop down on the end of Court Street. That's the type of thing.
it's
It is
hard.
about
There's a-
what, when we're talking economic development, we're not talking about big plazas and box stores and chains or any of that. That's exactly what we're trying to prevent. Anything that we're speaking to are things that fit the character of the town. It's going to be, as Greg says, incrementally, our thoughts are, it's just going to be an ongoing conversation. If something comes up and people say, oh, we've got a new ice cream shop, maybe that could be a bike shop too. It will be these small little things that will still be within character. It's also looking at different sections of town. They're all different. Four Corners, which has some pads, maybe could be some things down there. Maybe there's some things in West Groton that will be smaller because it doesn't have as much space, but it has wonderful trails that we could help promote. It's not about making us this metropolis that we want. The leakage is one thing, but we're not trying to suggest that we do everything in town, because that would change the character of the town, and that's what we definitely don't want to do.
And maybe, like, all that's true. So we keep talking about this ice cream shop that's opening up, right? 21
We
years.
can all support that.
21 years, I had to wait until an ice cream shop opened by the time my girls were in their 20s and they don't live anymore. Great. This town, I don't know if it's this committee's job, I don't know if it's Destination-Groton's job, I don't know if it's Mark's job, I don't know whose job it is, but we have thousands of people that ride that bike trail every week, and there should be a concerted effort to make sure every one of those people knows if they park their bike or ride their bike to that ice cream shop, there's an ice cream shop 3
Right.
minutes away.
So-
We should do everything we can to make sure that that's successful.
Absolutely. So I would say it's your job to propose it and talk to the planning board, get it approved, get some sort of a kiosk down there. That idea has been floating around for quite a while.
Yeah,
And yeah, we don't have a paid economic development staff to do it. So
It's us.
feel free.
They are free.
well,
They are free,
Yeah.
like we are.
it's bigger than us. We don't want to suppose that we could act in that vein. We want to collaborate with other
Right, but
stakeholders in town.
But, there's endless committees, and I think that you guys are the people who can propose some specific things and maybe make them happen. And as far as the economic development, we've got the empty places down at the Four Corners.
Yep.
I think we can all agree that
Yeah.
filling those would be a great idea.
Yeah.
But you can't, see,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of the things you guys say I've been doing myself. I've tried to open a bike shop right there with a friend of mine when that was for sale. We have an ice cream store down the street, by the way, it's called Johnson's. They're worried about the new
Yeah.
place. That's a whole different animal. Those pads down there, they're owned by Shaw's. They control it. That's the problem with a lot of what we're talking about, private property, private residences. I think the best analogy I can make, and you say it, and I'm looking at it like the greens community, the sustainability. We're going to do all that stuff in little increments. We're not.
That's right.
And that's how we have to do it.
Yep.
It's the only way to do it.
Yep.
And it's a tough job. And you guys,
But it's forward and it's
But
action and
Yeah.
it's
At the
it's
Four
incremental.
Corners, I mean, we all refer to it as Shaw's.
Yeah.
Shaw's controls on their corner, but the Mickey Higgins side has an empty pad, and Craven's is empty. So
well,
filling
that's
those.
all private property, and we have
I
to
know
get
it's
to
all
those
private,
people.
private.
But I mean, then we had the residents come out. Remember how strong they come out for a pickleball court. Now it's still sitting there vacant, and the developer got pretty much angry and ran away. And said, why would I come here? The people they didn't want it, so we didn't get it.
But we-
And those are the things that we're working against. I mean, I haven't been here near as long as any of you people. And to talk about the traffic, you don't have to be a genius to know it. And how is it gonna get fixed? I don't know. The road's only so wide, and there's only private property. LA owns a lot of it, the town owns some of it. We can't take Bud's house, we can't take your house. I mean, those are things that maybe you can do somewhere else, but not in Groton. But I think the underlying premise of what is going on here is really good. I would just say the communication part, particularly with how these people come out when they find, and oftentimes I go, well, if they paid attention at all, and they don't until the spotlight comes to their house. Like you put these renditions in, and a rendition came in on Station Ave, and people came out of the woodwork.
Right.
Like, that's my house, and it's not there anymore. Where is it?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't see it coming, didn't know it was coming, and it's not coming.
It's not.
coming.
It's not.
These are just ideas that we're gonna do a little bit at a
If
time.
they become available,
Yeah.
if something changes, if,
Right.
like,
And-
we have something in place that we can reach out to, something that we want to see there and say, hey, this has become available maybe in 7 years from now. It's just,
And the important point I'd like to leave you with is we are seen, and we are a development committee, a marketing committee. We want to see things happen in town to the best that is acceptable. the idea of creating this commission is modeled on the Community Preservation Committee, and to some respects, the Complete Streets Committee.
They
We
both have
have
money to
members,
spend.
let me just say, they have members from the Conservation Commission, they have the Planning Board, Historical Commission, Housing Authority, Parks Commission, and 2 members at large.
Yeah, but the CPC has a very specific charge, and they have money.
But we have money too.
And
We-
what's the
we've
other
been-
one that
We
you
find
mentioned?
our money.
We've been getting money.
Complete Streets gets money, and they have a specific charge.
And that's what we're doing as well. And we've been getting money. We've gotten over $200,000 in
Right.
grant funding in 4 years. We're not, I think for me, I hear what Greg is saying, that we're for the marketing and the promoting and the shining the spotlight and protecting what we love and all these things that we're being charged with. The stuff that's in this 10-year vision, a lot of it, the engineering of the street or how to make it safer or some of these other things, that really isn't our part, you know?
It
But
isn't
we've started that process.
Yeah.
Right.
But this challenges all of us.
Yeah.
You're the policymakers, we're just citizens engaged in a committee, and there's the residents in town. How do we engage through this conversation to share a vision and then set about an action implementation strategy?
Even if it's slow.
And I think for me, it needs to be slow, but it also needs to be
Deliberate.
kind of active.
Exactly.
So there needs to be, we're not going to get a 10-year vision all worked out and handed off as a final thing. We need to start with
Absolutely.
well, let's do a temporary kiosk by the bike path, see what happens this summer. If it's well received with a QR code and some poster paper, then maybe we'll make it bigger and more permanent. And those pieces, to me, those smaller pieces, let's stripe some parking spots and put a couple cones out so that people aren't passing on the right at Route 40. These are pieces that aren't threatening to anyone, because we're not talking about coming in, let's erase all of Main Street and put in 4 Home Depots and an ice cream shop and more restaurants. We're talking about just, no one has a problem with that.
Well, and you're right, Allison, because that's going to develop trust. Right now, even though we've said over and over and over, we're not pushing anything, this is not a plan, these are just ideas, it's still not being heard that way.
Yeah, this
And
is the
so if
start.
we're-
Well, and also, I want to just point out, there's a planning board in town, and some of what you're talking about, I think, belongs with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
So the
it-
planning board's
yeah,
gonna
they-
apply for grants.
they just did the
and
master
do all
plan,
that
so some
stuff.
of that's
I don't see
part
them
of
doing
that.
these kind of things, though.
they bring their expertise to the table, but as a team, we get it done.
Yeah.
They're planners, and they respond to applications, and they look at challenges. We want an action part of that, or a team.
Small.
They don't propose solution. I mean, and that's not a
That's not
a
a,
slam
They don't go
against
looking
them.
for things
They
to
review
buy.
permits. We need-
Exactly.
We need kind of the
Planning, and
worker
they did the
bees
master
to-
plan, which becomes the basis for, zoning changes, you're gonna do that.
Yeah.
Same thing.
I guess I think of it as kind of, we need like the adult version of like the Boy Scout Eagle projects.
Yes.
Where we need them a little bigger than that, but similarly non-threatening
I
by
like
local
that.
folks in
Yeah.
small increments
Yeah,
that have
absolutely.
positive impact.
Absolutely. That's how we've been feeling, is just trying to say, instead of being reactionary and trying to think of, like, going back to your point, Allison, of looking at things more holistically, how are the impacts going to be? And that was part of what this idea of this additional committee could potentially be. Just to say, somebody from the sustainability or the historic district saying, wait a minute, you haven't thought about this factor, or, whether it's another commission or not, it's how do we carefully, to not trigger the immune system of automatically no, to start implementing and having an action instead of not just doing another study in another 30 years or 10 years or whatever.
I was searching for something.
Did you all see that Groton was mentioned in the Globe magazine?
Indeed,
A week
14.
ago, for their appealing and charming Main Street something to that
Yeah.
effect.
Good,
Yeah.
good, and we'll keep it.
And we just had, as you pointed out last week, Yankee Magazine spent a
Yes.
weekend here.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're
Yeah.
just opening the doors to
Yeah.
that relationship. We expect, I'm getting too far ahead of myself, but in the next year, maybe something like Chronicle comes out or New England Living. There's enough of a story here. I was making my notes scribbled all over the place. I was just searching for the one line, and I just found it. We see a vision as a roadmap of ideas, not a final blueprint. So we're not saying it's going to be a blue 40-story thing here. It's what's the input from the citizens? How do we get behind a shared vision to improve public safety and economic growth that's reasonable? It's not over the border or over the top, but engages the town to share in a vision.
And have
That's the
civic
point.
pride.
And I guess for me, so I think my concern with kind of the vision and the big picture is that it's too big and too final. That for me, and I actually think it would be the select board, I would challenge us to do some of this, that we're the ones who should be getting your recommendations, reading your report and saying, oh, a bike path
Some of the
kiosk.
traffic-
Well,
We
we'd
can
like
do
to have
that.
you on the
Right.
We
committee.
can do a map that's.
Just as
you know,
Peter is on
and that's-
the, just as Peter's on the Complete Streets
Yeah.
Commission, we'd love to have a member of the select board on this commission. We don't want to run it Destination-Groton. We want to be an equal with the other members who bring their vision, energy, and commitment to the town to the table. That's
So-
the key.
You just made a point then. How do we approach the select board to get a kiosk at the bike trail?
You do
How
some,
long does that take? Does that take 2 months? Does that
We
take-
had, actually, there's something
years,
down there
2
now
months,
that was
2
put
weeks.
together by, it was done, Neshoba Tech, I think, did that one. We were in Neshoba Tech, and you gotta get DCR's permission, because it's their,
Right.
it's their trail.
Yep.
But yeah, you can, I mean, we can initiate that or help make that happen.
but I think if you bring a proposal, as much research as you can do about, here's what we think it should get made of, it should look like, how big it should be, this is what other towns have done that have succeeded, this is what DCR will approve.
Yeah.
The more of that gets done.
Yeah, we have a lot of
Come to
contact
us.
with them with DCR. But there's some designs and stuff, and again, we can, as far as resources, the tech school is a great resource for a project like that.
Right.
Do something like that.
But I think even, I mean, to me, the kind of the piece that the select board has already started on a little bit is the traffic study.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
huge.
you know,
That's the
to me,
biggest one.
the
Oh my
bike
God.
path kiosk might
Yeah.
go to Complete Streets, it might,
Yeah.
that could reside in
Yeah.
a number of places.
So it sounds like 2 weeks, 2 months.
When people start,
Yeah.
people start, yeah.
But the
For
idea that,
right.
you know, we're
I'll
gonna
stand
get
down there with a sandwich board about the ice cream shop. I'm all over that.
ice cream all over you.
Yeah, right.
Bicycles.
But I think
and
people,
ice
once
cream.
people see, some progress on some of the,
Yeah.
traffic calming and
Right.
Yes.
pedestrian,
Thank
friendly
There's
measures
some
like that,
low-hanging
Right.
they'll see
fruit
it's
that
real.
we can do in the next year or
Right.
two that would
And-
really improve and not
that's
cost a lot of
necess-
money.
And that's
Right.
not necessarily permanent.
Right.
Maybe some of the things are a trial thing,
Yeah.
and it could be just to see what
Yeah.
could happen.
It's
Yeah, I mean, I think some of
Great.
the striping, even, I know
And-
early on, there was a conversation with Mark, and he was expressing the concern that if we were to stripe parking places and have the setbacks from the crosswalks and things, that
Oh,
we would
right, right.
lose some of our volume of parking. The reality I've found, and I've talked to him about this since then, is when you pull up in front of Town Hall for these meetings, there's a car, and then there's 19 feet, and then there's a car,
Yeah.
and then there's
Right.
16 feet.
Right.
And I think if we were to stripe those, we would potentially fit in more parking,
I
because
would. I
now
think you
people
might be
aren't
right.
like
I agree.
leaving
agree.
this flexibility that we
We
don't really
we have a
need.
concept in here of something called connected parking. There are.
Yeah, if you can get the private owners to connect the bats.
Of course, if, we don't
Oh,
know.
right.
But it's an idea.
Absolutely.
We
And
need
it-
to
and it-
explore it and pursue it. If it happens, that creates connected parking right here
Yes.
behind
But
Main
I think
Street.
for me, in the big picture, my concern is that something like, oh, we need to we need to suggest connected parking, get everyone on board with that. That doesn't mean we can't stripe parking spaces
Oh,
now.
no.
Like,
right.
you know,
Right.
that we need to kind of
Absolutely.
have get the momentum and start making some of these
Yep.
changes.
So we would love to have our town leaders consider promoting a vision and a plan and a strategy and an action implementation over incremental period of time with the people who really desire to work together to make it happen. And I'm now sounding like a broken record, but I believe that yes, we could continue on as a standalone committee and market the town. But some of the things we've discovered through the process, we're not engineers, but we hired a top-notch engineering firm who came in with a dozen options. We don't know if they are even feasible. I mean, take the concept of a roundabout. We have no idea, and we're not pushing it. But we see what the engineers said. Now, that versus four-way stop signs or traffic lights and the cost associated with that and the time period in which to secure the funding. There are three dimensions here. The idea of a vision, the commitment by the town in a shared vision, and the time is a third dimension. We're saying 10 years. It allows us to get as much conversation going around this idea and start an action plan of implementing it at a pace that people accept. They
I hope we
understand.
don't have to wait 10 years to make some of these improvements. for
No,
traffic.
that's why when you read the report, it shows a
0 to 2,
timeline.
Yeah.
0 to 2, 3 to 5.
I want to thank you for all the work that went into this. I think it's
Yeah.
really good. And it actually is up on the website now, so people
Yeah.
that want to look at it can see it on the town website, yeah.
But we
Yeah,
need,
it's definitely up
but
there.
we really need to be clear every time, because even though we're putting this information out, and even though we say it's a vision, these are ideas, where did the idea of eminent domain come
Yeah.
out? You know, these
Yeah.
things that we're like, no, that's not, we would never do that. You know, that's, so it's gotta be.
We're really working through you as the town leaders,
Yeah.
the policymakers. If you get the idea that we're trying to express here, it's a vision, and then it's a team that comes together, and you're directly involved in it.
In little bits.
And we benefit from the strength and energy and expertise of these other standing committees. That's what we're looking at.
I
Thank you.
think
And
those
no,
little
we didn't
pieces-
just use AI to write the whole report.
No, we
We
did not.
did build a very sophisticated AI agent that helped us with some of the language.
So the one
Right.
thing I'll leave you with is I really dislike the reference to a dog park. We do not have a dog park in Groton. That is a misnomer. We have a piece of conservation land that the owner allows people to take their dogs on. And I get really irked when it's referred to as the dog
We're
park.
in our,
Yes.
no,
Yeah.
there was
Yes.
a talk of a new.
A dog.
We were trying
There's
to
a
create a
reference
dog.
to a central dog park as an asset on page 72.
Right.
As a
As a
concept.
new
Right.
dog.
As a new dog park.
That was
They're not
as-
just-
Okay.
Because we're trying to find a way for people to take their dogs off leashes, because
Okay,
now they
then
can't
if
be off
I read it
leash.
wrong, I apologize. But what I read it was a reference to,
No. This was,
Well, then you don't want to go to Yappy Hour at the Groton Fusion Vine and come.
that I can make a choice about because I know when it's happening. But the fact that a lovely conservation area got, in my mind, sort of taken over as the dog park,
Yeah.
changed its character completely. And
no, this is
Well,
Now
it got
because
because,
we're
ruined when
allowed
they
dog
clear
owners,
cut
it
it a
won't
few
be
years
good.
ago, and I haven't taken my dog back since.
well, we
Yeah,
can't
exactly.
have dogs off leashes now. So where do we go to teach our dog to come
Right.
off leash? You know, we don't have any fenced-in dog parks. So that was the idea from several people to
And
say,
I think that's a
Can
So
we
great,
that was the
have
idea of a new,
a new
Great, okay.
fenced-in place that people could safely take, like they have in Air.
Right.
They've got a great place in Air that people can go. There's one in Westford, you know, there's,
and for me, it's a great concept, but I don't want it anywhere near the center.
yeah.
okay?
Well, hopefully, we
Yeah.
want to thank you
Yeah.
personally and professionally. You're our leaders, you're
Yeah.
the policymakers. We're just coming up with ideas. We hope the idea stands on its own.
Thank you for all your
No,
work.
you
It's
guys
really
do.
an amazing
I
report.
really
Yeah.
appreciate that. It
Thanks.
was,
I think too, when we, well, whoever makes up the board in another few months, when it's time to do goal setting, I think it would be great to look at some of the things that are in
Yeah,
that
you know,
0
yes.
to 2 year.
Excellent
We'll
Because
happily.
yeah.
come and-
everything,
Excellent
everything in
point.
the 0 to 2 year feels like non-threatening. Oh, these are no-brainers, we can do these.
Yeah.
It's not till we start talking about roundabouts to the
Yeah.
dog park.
Little,
Right.
no,
Right.
Well,
Good point.
I don't know if you guys have noticed, but so many people driving east on 119 are now taking a left in front of Bruno's, which isn't really a left. You know
In
what I'm
front of
talking about? So
Bruno's?
that you're going like that way,
Or to go down Howell Street?
right on Hall Street.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
What did you, I'm not following.
People going east on 119,
Coming
coming
this
from
left-hand turn on
Townsend,
the
going to the, past the town hall, are taking a left
No, from
at
Hollis
Bruno's.
to,
More frequent, I've noticed this more, like I said, I've been there a long time. To go up Hall Street towards where you live.
I said
They're
they're coming
taking,
that way.
so they're
Right.
taking a
Left
left,
the
which
intersection.
is like going this way.
I avoid that
Right.
And it's
intersection.
causing, I have almost now hit several people.
Oh, people come. I
Right, so
Yeah.
I go to take the
Right,
left,
yeah,
thinking
yeah.
that car is gonna
Yeah,
continue, and all of a
it's
sudden I
that.
turn around and that
Right.
car is now stopped to take
Yes.
a
but
left.
I think that as someone who does that now, who didn't used to do that, it's because you can no longer turn left out of Pleasant and, you know, you can't turn left onto 119
Right.
and then go up Champney
And
or
I don't know if it's
so I
because
go right
Waze
and
is
go
telling them
left.
to do that, because I think that is why there's so much more traffic on all these other
Yeah.
sections of town,
Is
but
it-
that needs to be over.
that, the road is so wide that people, I mean,
I
I
think
had
that's one of the
people
biggest issues downtown.
stopping for me crossing in front of the Groton Inn, to cross the Groton Inn.
Yep.
And a person stopped, and another person tried to pass around the left, and I'm right there, and he stops within feet of me,
Right.
like, oh, there's somebody walking.
And you've offended him somehow.
Let me end
Yeah,
on
and
one.
he was mad.
one-
New Hampshire plate.
We're asking for your consideration about the concept of forming a team. The strength will speak for itself from the various perspectives.
Or however we can, yeah.
I just lost my thought.
Sorry.
So if we could come back at an appropriate time, we'd like to do that and ask for
Let
your
us
support.
discuss
Yeah.
this.
Exactly.
Just to see, because I mean, we've heard what you said.
Yes.
Let us check the viability of it, and then we'll let you know, and we can go with that one.
Sorry.
Becky's done.
Becky's all done, all right.
Time for me to go home.
I'm
But
done.
no, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.